All right, welcome everybody to According to Andrew number 24, Awake in the Nightland review. So, obviously, there's a bunch of craziness going on with politics right now, and you can get that like tons of other places. I'm gonna do a thing where there's like a little bit of a haven from all that right now. So, um, yeah, we'll probably get back into that another day, but not today, because I just finished Awake in the Nightland by John C. Wright, and like literally just finished the last page like 5 minutes ago. um, which means I probably haven't had enough time to sleep on it and kind of reflect. But uh, we're doing it live, so it was interesting. But I had a hard time getting into it, to be honest, which makes me sad because I was really looking forward to this book because I got the audiobook of um, A City Beyond Time by John C. Wright as well, and that was fantastic. That was so good. And I don't know if maybe, um, that one was done by audiobook, and I read this one. So maybe if I had read that one, or if I listened to this one on audiobook, it would have captivated me more or something. There is something for different forms of media and how you consume it. I get it, but thanks for the follow, Chinese Bear. Um, but I don't know. I couldn't get into this book, and it was decent. It was good. Like I didn't like hate reading it, but and part of it was I haven't been reading a ton recently as well. So like I'm reading it and I'm like falling asleep while I'm reading it, and like that's never usually a good sign. Like usually if a book captivates me, like I'll just keep going and going and going and going. Um, it was just interesting. It was kind of like broken into four uh short stories, which is how A City Beyond Time also is. I think there's more short stories in that one, but and they're all kind of tied together by this theme of like the Nightland, which is interesting. Also, one thing of note, because they do mention this early in the book, is it's based on William Hope Hodgson's The Nightland. Uh, is kind of like the setting for that, and I haven't read that book, so I don't know if like reading that book makes this book better. But I haven't read that book, so if you guys have read that book and you think, hey, this is worth reading, and I think it'll really enhance the Wake in the Nightland experience that you had, um, it I'd give it a shot. But apparently it was a hard read for more than just me, so that's a good sign. But yeah, I don't know. It was cool. My favorite one was by far the final book, which is The Last of All Sons. That was really captivating and kind of tied together some other aspects of parts from earlier, but I was kind of hoping that it would thread in more stuff from the um, previous short stories than it did. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal, and I don't know if I can necessarily recommend just reading the last book. You could, and I think it'd be fine, but I think you wouldn't have as much context of like what's going on and like the sense of what the Nightland is and what all these threats are to the character of the last book if you don't read at least some of the previous ones. I don't know if you need to necessarily read all of them, but um, I would at least read like one of them because it kind of gives you hints and context of like how certain things work, which they also do in the last one as well. But um, I think you'll just have a better understanding of what they're trying to say in the final book if you read that first. But yeah, uh, should I go into spoilers? I guess I don't know if it's really necessarily spoiler. So the first two books are like journey books, right? So they journey out from the Great Redoubt, which, as you can see from the picture here, is on the book cover is this giant pyramid with the circle around there, and these are like this has got like the earth current in it. Earth current protects the Great Redoubt from the great evils that are out in the Nightland. That's basically the premise. Actually, I got a cooler picture here. So yeah, so here's the Great Redoubt, and then the eternal darkness that's out all over the place. This is at the end of all time, kind of, and where darkness has consumed everything. I was actually getting really excited. As a side note, I was getting really excited in the fourth book because it's like the end of all suns. It sounds like it's, the end of time and stuff like that, and it really sounded like it was about to tie in to the city beyond time. And I thought that's where it was going, and I was getting really, really excited about it, and it didn't. Sorry to break it to you people. So that was just something I was kind of hoping was happening, and then it didn't. And that was his creative decision. I don't know which order he wrote those two books in either. So um, that might be one of the reasons it wasn't tied in. He might not have written it yet. Um, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. And there's also he said that the Nightland was a great influence on him, and you can kind of see some of that influence in uh, obviously the Nightland. I haven't read the Nightland, but Wake in the Nightland and City Beyond Time. There are aspects of that they share together that really tie them together. And like both their writing style and kind of their not theses, but kind of some of their moral underpinnings, I guess, things of that nature, which was kind of cool. So yeah, so the first book, which is Awake in the Night, is a journey for this guy to go save his buddy, um, and it's set out to be like a doom thing, and people can read time, and he ends up succeeding, which is kind of cool. And then Cry of the Night Hound was kind of had like a cool twist in there. Um, and maybe I shouldn't have said that, but where it's a girl uh, wants to save her brother, got stuck out in the Nightland and wants to go and save her brother, um, even though he's probably dead, and uh, he had been trying to use these night hounds, which are kind of like chimeras. Uh, yeah, basically chimera dogs, uh, and trying to use them to save the redoubt. Um, while other people were thinking that they were the people of the night, and they were trying to deceive the people so that they could destroy the last redoubt. So that's what that story's about. And then the last story, or then there's the Silence of the Night, and that story is about um, a man who tries to save his father's soul by going into the Nightland, and his father had been killed like right at basically the door of eternal silence, or door of the House of Silence, which is like part of the thing is they don't describe these creatures, which can lends it to your imagination, but they were so vague as for me to just have them be like mists and blobs and stuff like that, and so that kind of was maybe another aspect of me having a hard time kind of getting into the book. It didn't really inspire any, it didn't suck me in with any like whimsical or like uh, imaginative beasts or creatures that really like kind of fleshed out the world. It was kind of just like it's kind of like this picture here where it's just like there's this shiny beacon and everything else is pitch black, and you can't see anything, which is like it's the setting for the story. I get it, but it doesn't, because of its like kind of grim dark setting, it doesn't have that thing that like sucks you in, that makes you want to live in this society, and therefore like kind of really engage with the story and stuff like that. Like when I'm reading this, I'm like, this sounds like it's awful. I don't want to live here, kind of thing. Whereas like if I'm reading, Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or Harry Potter, like those settings are like in an area where it's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to like kind of be immersed in this world? Even interestingly, like because I mentioned Grimdark, like the 40K series. The 40K series is so over the top and so crazy and stuff like that that it, even though it's in like the super depressing like grimdark era, um, it kind of like you get engaged with the story and you want to like see what's happening, and it's a grand tragedy kind of thing. That one's a little different because like the books are actually not set in the 40K universe, which is kind of like the hopeless universe, but it's um, when there's a chance for redemption in the 30K universe, and then it's like tragically taken away. So that's like a good tragedy story. So it's a little different. Um, but yeah, so Silence of the Night, it's another adventure story. Guy goes out to save his dad, and then tragedy. To to truly save him, he has to do something tragic. And I'm trying not to give these stories away too much. And then the last one, which is very interesting, is The Last of All Sons, which is basically trying to break the destructive cycle of all of these evil things that have consumed the world and created the Nightland, and all the horrors that you find out in the Nightland are trying to um, consume consume the world again, and it's one guy's task to make it so that they don't do that. Um, yeah, good. Yeah, it's an everything is out to get you thing. Thanks, Chinese Bear. Um, so I don't. It can be interesting, but um, I guess the problem with like the everything's out to get you, like the showcase of all evils, as you're saying, is it just there's almost like no hope, right? And there's aspects of it that he tries to tie in where it's like there's hope, and people are still doing things despite the odds, and that's very true. And people still push for hope and stuff like that, but it's kind of looked on as like foolish and vain, and it turns out to not necessarily be the case there in basically every instance. But um, it's just like that like general hopelessness of the whole society. It's like it makes it hard for them to root for you when it's like they don't even want to like save their own society almost kind of thing. It's like, well, if you don't care, I certainly don't. um, so I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. Did you read the book Chinese Bear? So I don't know if people are kind of into like a grimdark setting, where it's kind of like a apocalypse type, uh, people holding on for their dear life kind of thing, you might really enjoy the book. And if you're like a huge fan of John C. Wright, um, it's probably worth reading regardless. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I was hoping for more, I guess, and I didn't know what it was potentially about going into it. So maybe if I had a better sense of what it was, um, I would have had better tempered expectations. But I kind of just went off of, well, City Beyond Time was great, and that did kind of like captivate like a lot of thoughts in my head and stuff like that. That was a very grand adventure. Um, so I thought this might be the same, and it's different, which is fine. Um, but yeah, yeah, there is minor glimpses of hope here and there, but not as much as I was hoping. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my my review of the book. That's okay. So um, yeah, so I don't know. If you got like I got it via the Castelia library thing, and the book is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. So if you got it via that, I think it's definitely worth a read, even if it takes a little bit to get through. But that's kind of my review and everything that I had to say on it. If you guys have different opinions, if you have suggestions on like if I should read the Nightland or anything like that, um, the let me know in the comments below, and yeah, I'll get that done. But thanks for listening. And this has been According to Andrew, number 24. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more random thoughts about random things. Whether it's book reviews or politics or societal structures, whatever I happen to be into that day and what I want to talk about. If that's what you find interesting to listen to, give me a follow. I'd appreciate it. But anyway, have a good one.